Today we're going to talk about y-intercept and how to write equations. First, we're going to look at some definitions. Our first definition is going to be slope. We've already begun to talk about slope, and slope is going to be our rise over our run. So this is the number of spaces you have to rise up on the y-axis and over on the x-axis to get to the next point on a line. The next one we're going to talk about is y-intercept. Y-intercept is the location where the line crosses the y-axis. And when you look at your coordinate pair, it's always going to be, at that point, a 0 and then some value y. Because if it's crossing your y-axis, it's going to look like this. And this point right here would be your y-intercept. And if you look, it's going to be 0 and then some negative number for y. The next thing we're going to look at is linear equation. A linear equation is just an equation that represents a line. So that represents a line. And we're going to talk about 3 ways to write a linear equation. The first one we're going to talk about today is going to be slope-intercept. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the other 2 ways, which are point-slope and then standard form. So the first formula we're going to use is slope-intercept form, and that is going to be this formula, this y equals mx plus b, and we're going to call that slope-intercept form. And you're going to use this equation to graph lines later. But first we're going to talk about just how to use points and slopes and to actually write our formula. So I'm going to tell you what each letter stands for. The first letter we're going to look at is M. And hopefully you remember from that formula we did the other day, M is going to be your slope. So they'll either give you your slope, or you'll have to look at a graph and find your slope, or you're going to have to find the slope between 2 points. So you'll either be given your slope, you'll find it off a graph, or you'll have to use 2 points in the formula. And then x is just going to be your variable. So x is just a variable, so it's always going to be x. And then b is going to be your y-intercept, which we're going to talk about next. So these are the important parts, and it's always going to be y equals. So now we're going to write a formula from the graph. So based off what we know, we want to figure out what is M, what is B, and then we can plug both of them into our equation. So let's start with M. I've already given you 2 points, but remember, it's not always going to give you those 2 points. So we're going to see how many spaces do I need to go up, and we need to go up 2 spaces, and then we need to go over 2 spaces, and it's negative because it's going in that left direction. So we want to reduce. So if you divide by 2, it's negative 1 over 1. And when we're writing it in the formula, if it's a whole number, we're just going to write it as 1. So we're going to write this as a negative 1. Now we want to find our y-intercept. So we want to find, here is our y-axis, and we want to find the space on that line where y crosses. So that is going to be this point right here. That is where the y-axis and your line intersect. So your y-intercept is going to be 0 for x and 1, 2, 3 for y. So now the number that you are actually going to use for b is going to be 3. We don't care about the 0, we care about the 3. So now we know what y is, or m is, and b. So remember it's y equals mx plus b. So now we just plug in. So our formula is going to be y equals negative 1 for our slope. Remember our variable x is always there. And this is actually a negative 3. So we are going to say minus 3. Remember, you do not have to put a 1 in front of your x, so you can write it as y equals negative x minus 3. Either answer will be fine. So now let's look at our next one, number 2. Let's find m first. How many spaces do we need to go up? And that's going to be 1. How many spaces do we need to go over? That's going to be 2. So 1/2. And then we need to figure out what is going to be our y-intercept. If you look, remember it's always going to be 0, and we're going to look down. It's 1, 2, 3.5, so 3.5. And we're going to use that 3.5. So now we can plug it in. So it's going to be y equals 1/2 x, and 3.5 is again negative, so minus 3.5. Now I want you to try 3 and 4 on your own. When you're done, you can come back and we can work them out together. Or if you don't feel like you're comfortable yet, you can work them out with me. So I'm going to start with 3. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. So we want to find m. What is our slope? And remember here, it gives you 2 points. So we are going to go from here to here. So we went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. And we went over 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's a negative slope, so we're going to put a negative in front of there. Now we want to find out what is b. Here's b. And that is going to be 0, negative 1. And we're going to use that negative 1. And now we can plug everything into the formula. So y equals negative 5 over 4 x minus 1. Now let's try number 4. Let's find our slope. This one, if you notice, does not give you 2 points, so you have to find the 2 points that you want to use. And let's use this point down here. And we'll use this point up here. So let's see, how many spaces do I need to go up and over? We're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. We're going over 1, 2, 3. We can't reduce 8 over 3, so that is fine. And now we want to find out what is our b. And that is going to be your y-intercept, and that is this one right here. And remember, it's always going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to use that 4. We're going to plug it in. Y equals 8/3 x plus 4. Now, for your Google question, I want you to use this graph. and I want you to tell me what is the slope, so what does m equal? What does b equal? And then you're going to end up having to write your equation. So m isn't going to be something that they actually asked for, but they are going to ask for what is our y-intercept and what is the equation in slope-intercept form. Make sure you bring your work to class tomorrow so that we can go over the answers.